Hi, welcome back everyone. Hope you enjoyed that little intermission video with Grupo Habitat, some of my favorite people in this industry. They do such amazing work. I'm thrilled to now welcome our amazing friends at Juniper to the CLOSEUP studio. Thanks for joining us. It's Shant Majarian, who is owner and founder, and Mel Sines, who is VP of Relationship Management. So welcome. For those of you who don't know Juniper, it's a lighting company based on simple quality fixtures based on designs that present conceptual yet practical systems. Before we dive in, I wanted to remind our audience to send questions. We will get to as many as we can. To ask a question, simply click on the question mark on the upper right-hand corner of your screen and then enter it in the box. We try to make it as simple as possible. So let's start the conversation before we get to your video. Shant, as owner and founder of Juniper, take us through your background and how you actually started the company and why you wanted to start it.
Sure. Well, thanks for having us, first of all.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
And so, yeah, the story of Juniper is an interesting one because it just kind of came from a place where, at a part of my life, where I was at that point had built a career in banking, and you know, during that time, I felt I had a lot of sort of entrepreneurial spirit in what I was doing. I really enjoyed finance. I still very much enjoy it, and so there was really this sort of sense of, you know, I want to start something. I want to do something. I didn't know in what. I just wanted to kind of take the reins and create and build, right? And so, in fact, before I even started lighting, I'd taken some classes in baking at the French Culinary Institute. I had a whole host of ideas and so on. But ultimately, I landed on this concept that I wanted to build products. I wanted to join the design community. And at that time, I didn't know exactly what that meant and how I was going to do it. So a lot of it was figuring it out. And so I sat down, made business models and the whole nine, none of which came true that way. So anyway, so I ended up you know, just started out of my apartment and got working, called a few people, and then ultimately, you know, it was a rough ride, like anybody who starts a business, for sure. You know, bounced off the bottom a couple of times probably, and then finally, you know, started figuring things out. Came here, joined the Industry City family, and from then on, you know, just kind of focused and built the business into what it is today.
Was the love of art or making things or design something that was in you from the beginning?
Definitely, and that's important. So the creative part of it, I've always very much into the arts, and I come from a family that's actually, I grew up in lighting, and my father was very entrepreneurial, and you know, he made things work, and he did a lot of custom lighting for sort of big projects, and you know, like anybody who's, you know, grows up in a family business, that's the last thing you want to do, you know. So, so I never really imagined I would get into that so much. But anyway, long story short, you know, it was just something I knew a little bit about it, just enough to be dangerous, but I wanted to do it my way, you know, really kind of take it a different direction. And so I started this business from scratch and took it to that point. And the creative element was really important, and I think that ability to match the entrepreneurial element with the creative side, and then really focus on getting things done. I think that's ultimately the biggest lesson that I've learned in business is there's a lot of that fun stuff in the beginning, and when you're exploring, and it's very inspirational, but it comes with a lot of hard work and execution.
Right. And Mel, how did you come into the company, and how did you two meet?
Well, in 2012, I was working for a tile company based out of New York City. A very dear friend of mine who was working at Juniper said, "Hey, I want you to meet my boss." We were at the Architectural Digest trade show at the time. So I met Shant there, and through dating and through getting engaged, and then through ultimately getting married, we decided that maybe I should take the leap into lighting, leave tile behind, and take the leap into lighting, and it worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I love it. And going back to creating solutions for clients, as you mentioned, and it's a lot of hard work, you know, how do you, what is your ideal collaboration, and how do you do that? And can you maybe mention a recent project and or how has that changed or evolved in the last 8-9 months with everything going on?
Well, as far as collaborations are concerned and projects, we really take cues from our clients. What are they looking for? What kind of lighting solutions or issues or problems are they bumping up against? Those tend to be the ones that start to create paths to the collaborative moments, the aha moments, those times where you think, oh, okay, this project, we can provide some different lighting solutions. There's a different kind of adaptation we can create, given the products that we have.
And I think that's right. I think the reality is everything starts with the problem, right? I mean, that's why a client comes to you. I mean, it's not so much in the negative sense of the term problem, and so we've developed a series of, our lighting is very much system-based, and it's done so particularly so that we're able to adapt to different needs and changing needs, and to be able to do so quickly. So I think that's one of the key elements of how it starts. And I tell everyone at Juniper is that we're probably more than 50% service.
Right.
You know what I mean? The product is a lot of hard work. You get it to a point, but the amount of work and collaboration we do with our clients is extensive.
Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. And that's the push, right?
How to make it fit in the space, right? How to get it all to work together,
Exactly. And now you have a new factory in Connecticut and also a showroom in New York, which we're going to take a quick look at and then keep the conversation going.
Turning an idea into a tangible reality has been one of the most challenging and humbling experiences of my life. Like many socially conscious businesses, we are balancing the often opposing elements of technology, meaning, and aesthetics. Our goal is to design, develop, and manufacture ideas that are purposeful, relevant, and beautiful. In a strange way, we are aiming to produce an anti-product, putting form to relevant ideas rather than creating objects for the sake of the object itself, and placing modularity at the center of our design philosophy. At the very core is purpose, which for us is influenced by minimalism. But today, minimalism is more than just about form. We believe that it has as much to do with ingenuity and innovation. In other words, when developing a new idea, we ask ourselves the question, what value does this product serve in its quest to solve a problem and enhance quality of life, while also weighing it against its demand on our environment? Our Thin collection best exemplifies our design philosophy. The Thin began with an idea of reducing the linear light tube that had become ubiquitous with the fluorescent bulb to an exaggeratedly thin profile, best represented in a half-inch diameter tube, which took years of technological development. Then, we set out to apply materials not typically associated with architectural lighting. The old world warmth, longevity, and versatility of brass felt right despite the challenges it posed. But the most important motivation behind Thin was that it would solve an existing problem. We were not interested in putting out more of what already existed. At the center was the idea that a simple, minimal tube, when combined with intentionally designed connectors, would result in objects of vastly different form and function, while remaining visually cohesive. Changing one of Thin's simple connectors can transform the fixture from vanity light to suspended pendant, office illumination, grid lighting, and wall art. This Thin system set the example at Juniper, and it has now become the basis of our design philosophy. We adapted our Metropolis light to an innovative wall-to-wall application, as well as pendants and wall sconces. Axis uses simple angles to permutate the form and function of the fixture. The bronze material is hand-finished and assembled in our factory. The Flutes is the latest addition of our collection of lighting systems, inspired by patterns in nature. The shape of the extrusion defines the way in which they interconnect, and therefore defining the way in which they proliferate. The Lydian style, for example, begins with a single line and expands in linear fashion, while the Dorian morphs into organic clusters, imitating stalactites found in caves. The fixtures can be designed in freeform, and each illuminated extrusion can be easily modified to fit its intended space. Ground control is inspired by the dials and switches of mid-century space command centers. Mid-century was a time where technology and design were synonymous. With ground control, we attempt to bring the two back together within the context of today's world. The biggest lesson I have learned with Juniper is that great endeavors never happen overnight. We live with our products. They are living entities that evolve and improve over time, which is what we believe embodies the true spirit of design. Nothing is perfect from the get-go, and nothing ever reaches perfection. It is a series of incremental improvements, chasing a moving target. And when dealing with complex lighting systems, we are offering as much a service as we are a product. Our collections transform into tens of thousands of possibilities. Many are simple and obvious, while others are super complex. But each requires close collaboration with our clients to ensure it is made to fit their needs. This level of service and product flexibility would not be possible without our full manufacturing capabilities. In 2020, we opened our flagship showroom in Soho, New York, and we moved our production to our new headquarters and manufacturing facility in Southington, Connecticut. Keeping with the spirit of combining the old with the new, we purchased a 100-year-old mill building on the Quinnipiac River. With almost 2 years of renovation, we repurposed this beautiful building into an advanced manufacturing center. At this location, we have expanded our capabilities and our offerings with high-tech machining and traditional metal finishing capabilities. We have brought manufacturing jobs back to a town where manufacturing once thrived, and we are proud to have one of the most culturally diverse businesses in our community. We see a bright future, one where ethically and environmentally driven businesses increase their influence, and who use their influence to not only inspire, but to enact change. We all have a small part to play. Our tiny part is to provide light. Light that consumes less energy and less material. Light that inspires people to come together, and light that builds communities towards a better and brighter future.
Okay, love all that. We have so much to talk about. Good thing we have lots of time left. Okay, so let's talk first about the facility, the building, Connecticut, Southington. How did that come to be? And tell us a little bit about rehabbing a historic building. Okay. We've had that conversation before.
Yeah,
so.
Right. So when we moved it into Industry City, the place at that time, I think 5,000 square feet, felt huge. But it was probably in about a matter of years, we knew we were going to have to move on to something bigger. And we were really interested in expanding our manufacturing capabilities, which was becoming a little bit more challenging to do in New York City. So, it was kind of a bit of a dream of ours to get an old building, a mill building, and repurpose that. So one of the main, I guess, objectives was to find something that really reflected the character of what we do. And it's just really a shame on how many of these buildings actually get torn down. They're really difficult to renovate, to get them back to a place where they're up to current standards. So we started with that, but I didn't know any of that. So the naivety was awesome. That's what we're going to do. It's going to take us 6 months, and we're going to be ready to go. And the second thing was to go somewhere where we felt that manufacturing was important for the community, where there was a level of skill set, where people were interested in doing that work, and really being part of something bigger. And then lastly, we needed to be within striking distance of New York. New York is our home. It's where it all started. It's where our clients are. It's where our showroom is. So it was very important, and we kind of drew out a 2-hour radius,
literally,
kind of around, and
where can we go?
And we landed on the 2-hour mark. Repurposing a building like that, the main challenge is you really don't know. An inspection can't tell you everything, and it seemed to have good bones, and it does. But when we got down into it,
challenging is probably a very soft word to use. I would probably use other 4-letter words to describe how very difficult it was. in the beginning to get this facility to current standards and all the little things that you don't think about. Now, we make lighting, and that's what we do, and we don't design buildings. We're not interiors people. We're not architects. And so hats off to all of those who do such a wonderful job in that space, because we learned it was very difficult.
And we worked with Mark Thorpe Design on the building, and we had a phenomenal contractor, and I don't think we could have done it without them. So you really, you get there, and you, like everything else, you got to stick to it. And I think there was definitely 1 or 2 times in the middle of it, I'm like, I'm out. Like, I'm not doing this. So,
yeah, I'm just going to walk right into the Quinnipiac
Yeah,
room,
yeah.
right in there.
but
Call it done.
it's a beautiful building, and we're really proud of it.
Right. No, it looks at, again, I have lots of ideas for the next close-up. We're going on a tour. So also, you opened up a showroom this year as well. So you guys have been busy. What was it like to open the showroom, and when did you open, and did you have to kind of open and close, or did you open amidst the pandemic?
We opened during the pandemic.
Okay.
Yay.
Perfect.
It wasn't really supposed to be that way. We had some construction delays on the last end of 2019, and then COVID happened, and then we weren't able to do anything. But in the last, I want to say 2.5 months, we were able to open. It's challenging. Again, another soft word to use. We have to be very considerate of our employees, to be very considerate of our clients who are coming to see the space. The goal was to always make it a space that was an inspirational space. It looks very different from our factory. It really was intentional that way, so that it feels just like a little jewelry box for Juniper. And we wanted our clients to come in, be comfortable, really be inspired, look at our lighting the way that we see our lighting, and have a coffee and a glass of wine and stay for a while. Some of those things we're not really able to do at this point, but I think we've been successful in being able to bring small groups of 1 to 2 people to come in, see the space, especially if we're working on a project, really need to get an understanding of how the lighting works, modularity of the system. I think that we're doing our best to accommodate our clients as best as possible, given the extraordinary circumstances that we're in.
In fact, it's a good point too, is that one of the things we felt with some of our products, in particular the thin system, it's really hard to show on a flat screen, right? And it's one of those things where when people interact with it, a whole new level of discovery happens. And definitely hats off to our marketing team, who were really able to work to bring the best of its ability into a video, because it's very hard to capture that. And the showroom is somewhere where you can really do that in person. And we were really looking forward to it. And it's something that I think we built it to be magical, and I hope people feel that way.
Well, it looked it on the quick videos. So, and then you'll be ready, right? When the world starts to open up more.
I think so.
Yeah.
We're ready.
We're ready. Yeah.
We're ready to go.
We're ready to go. So let's talk about the thin for a second, because I was mesmerized in how it moved and all the things you can do with it. What was the inspiration behind it? What was, where does that start? Where does the process start, the inspiration start, and the process begin for you in a project like Thin, or a piece like Thin?
It starts, it's like a thread, right? And you start at the end, you don't exactly know where it's going to end. And I would say best way to describe it, it's a bit of a journey, right? A journey of discovery. So when it all started, actually almost day one, let's call it for all intents and purposes, I started this business, I needed collaborators. So I just Googled lighting and design and so on. And somehow I fell upon this young man named Peter Bristol. And Peter at the time was working in an industrial design studio in Seattle, and now he's the head of industrial design at Facebook, actually, through Oculus. anyway, so he had this lamp. He had a picture of him holding this lamp, and I thought it was pretty interesting. So I approached him, and he responded, and he said that, oh, that's really cool. You're starting something that's really neat. He said, but I think I have something better for you. And he showed me this image of the thin task lamp. And at that time, it just looked like the coolest thing. I had no idea that it would be so difficult to actually develop. And again, naivety drives like all of this. Like, we're starting a business, make sure you just have a lot of energy and know very little. So, but we work together so well. Today is a really good friend of ours. And I think we share so much of the same ideas and values, and our relationship has lasted and strengthened over time. And that's what it took to get through this. And together we worked on it, we made it happen. It wasn't perfect in the beginning, but we kind of constantly improved it. And it was through that kind of half-inch light segment where ideas started to come through. And it started to say, well, you know what, this makes sense if it were just a single line over, say, a kitchen island, right? And so you do that, but then you're like, well, maybe you want it to be longer. So I say, all right, well, maybe we make a connector for it. But it'd be nice if the light would rotate. So you're like, well, that connector can't be fixed, so how would we rotate it? Well, let's think of a magnetic connector, and we have to develop that. And then, of course, it's like, well, what if you want to go around the bend? And then you start thinking about all these things. This would make a great picture light. And in all of that, you have to remember, and I think one of the important parts of the system wasn't so much about the magnetic connector and so on and so forth, even the half-inch light tube, which is a challenge to do, but it wasn't so much I think the hardest part. It was to be able to look forward and say, I need to create a system that can break up in like 1 foot, 2 feet, 3 feet, 4 feet, and permutate, always falling on the same points, regardless of the type of connector that you use, regardless of the type of mounting that it is. And so that it can be a tool, like Lego in a sense, where you can expand it limitlessly. Otherwise, you're always design yourself into a corner. And I think that's the achievement with this system. The hand-finished brass and all that are very, very important elements to, I think, what turned out to be the success of the product. But that's kind of how, like, the beginning of the string, and then you take it, find its way and its path, and now it's not so much what else could we do, it's that where do we stop? Like, at some point, all right, you know what I mean?
Enough
like,
is enough.
Yeah, enough is enough. No, that's so. And I think, and you said it took years to kind of figure that out. I mean, that must have been such a learning curve for everyone involved.
Yeah, it takes a long time, especially if, I think one of the things that is important to us, and I think other companies embody this as well, is that you can't fall in love and then fall out of love with a product. Right. It's a long-term relationship, and it's constantly improving the product. It's constantly making it better. And we have a really strong sense of pride in our thing. If someone says they don't like it, it hurts.
Oh, it hurts.
Yeah. If someone says, or it
right
doesn't
there.
work, or something like that. And so for every time that happens, if something isn't working right, it's a problem and it needs to be solved. And so we learn new things from that. But it's the constant improvement that is a cornerstone of this product, which is also part of that sort of 10-year journey with it.
Right. And I think it speaks to a lot of what people are looking for right now is flexibility, right? That it can work as like an art piece, like you said, or in a workplace, or I could see it in a hospitality element or residential. I think that, will help the longevity of it.
I think we try to stay on a course, that is very much about modularity, but also each piece having its own time in the spotlight, having its own moment. So, we have products like our flutes collection that comes in a beautiful, simple chandelier. Very much a residential product that really is a standout piece. Works really well in that kind of space. In the same family, there's also wall sconces, single pendant units that can really be adapted into a commercial setting, a hospitality setting. Really what we wanted to do, and I think what we try to do with all of our collections, is that we want to give our clients the opportunity to say, hey, you can just use one. That's great. But also, pique a little bit of curiosity and say, but you could also use the entire collection to really outfit your space in a way that feels organic, feels natural, feels like it evolves in this way very easily, and with ease. And I think I think with all of our fixtures, it really kind of has this very similar narrative that it can be really utilized in many different kinds of projects. Like it's not just stuck in one area. Yeah.
Right. No, that's so great. And so you mentioned the flutes, which we saw on the video as well, but can you take us a little more on the backstory of that piece as well?
Well, yeah, that's, as Shant mentioned in the video, it was inspired by, more of a nature music inspired collection. It's called Flutes for good reason. For all of you musicians out there, the flutes, the names that we chose for them is the Lydian, Dorian, and the Ionian, which are modes of music. So, like a little trivia question. But, we really wanted to have the fixtures be able to interconnect with each other, continue the modularity theme of our brand, but also be used as a singular unit. And this was something that was designed in-house. And
Right. Yeah, it's kind of like you have your essentials, the monopoint light, and we wanted to get into that space because we had, done a lot of work on linear lighting, and the question was, all right, well, what problems are we trying to solve first of all, right? And it was, the monopoint is ubiquitous, right? You have a round cylinder, has a light at the end of it, and some people do it really well already. So it was to be able to provide that, and then also then work, as Mel said, work off of that into, arrangements and huge installations in an effort to create that cohesion throughout a space using the same line ultimately, right?
Yep.
So let's cut to 2 quick videos that we have to better show everything that we've been talking about. So cool. Let's see the next one. Oh, that was quickie.
Yeah, that was a little short. Yeah.
Very cool, though, to see. Have you been surprised by some of the uses that designers and architects have come up with your creations? Like, I feel like you might have a set idea, and then they can surprise you or put it in a setting that you didn't even think about.
I think so. We work with some of the most amazing designers, and the creativity, honestly, is endless. And when you show up to a project or you finally see, we make things, and then sometimes you don't really get to see the end.
Right.
And then when you do, you're like, oh, wow, I guess I didn't think about it being used this way. Really pushing the boundaries, starting to use we have designers who use the lights, our products, as actual art pieces in a space. So it doesn't always have to be just a simple sconce. It could be something more than that. Although, honestly, a nice, beautiful, simple vanity sconce is fantastic and can really make a room as well. So you really get both.
And so, yeah, sometimes we come up with something that we just think is right, and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. But a lot of the times it is driven by our clients, our specifiers. In fact, the Metropolis is very much that. It was a collaboration we did with David Meckley at Huntsman, and it was like a really nice kind of hand drawing, as David does, and it was just looked interesting, at the time, and so we embarked on it. And it was a a tough thing to make, but in the end, we loved the way it looked. It served a purpose, and we brought it into the collection, and that's kind of a big part of what we do. And right now, Metropolis is actually one of our more successful collections. And so it oftentimes is driven in that collaboration, if not all the time, right?
I think all the time.
Yeah, it's
I have
taking
to say, it
information,
feels
what
like-
we get it from
yeah.
one place or
Right.
another, it's coming from a place where we're trying to understand what problems we're solving ultimately.
Right.
Yeah.
And like how I loved how you said problem, but with a positive
Yeah,
twist, right?
exactly. Yeah, a
It's-
challenge.
yeah.
Let's call it, right?
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, of course.
That's awesome. And how has the factory in Connecticut helped you expand and grow and
Right.
be able to do more things that you weren't not allowed,
No,
weren't
yeah.
able to do? I guess is
Yeah,
the right question.
no, of course. And so that's a really good question. When working with metals, and one of the most important things is to be able to finish the metal, and that's unfortunately not entirely, but largely a lost art, at least as far as I've seen in our surroundings. So it was important. I grew up with that. You know, how to patina brass, for example. You know, the whole polishing and all the different grades of it. And anyway, so it was very important for us to have a finishing capabilities in-house. But it was also important for us to be able to machine our parts. You know, we've used local, domestic, international suppliers for that. It really complicates the supply chain. It's important. You know, everyone has different skills. We can't do everything in-house. But having our own machining center was critical. It helps us prototyping. It helps us to customize our parts, our products in a way that we couldn't do, at least not do quickly. It really opened up a lot of doors. We knew we wanted to do that. So now we have full, spray booth. We have our polishing and all patina capabilities. We have our machining capabilities. So we're, producing the vast majority of things in-house right now, do all the assembly in-house, naturally, of course, as we did before. So that flexibility helps us from a business perspective to be nimble, but also on the creative side to be able to adapt things quickly and come up with product a lot faster.
It's amazing. And you can just, see the excitement behind the products through the factory. And so let's talk about your company, the creative culture. It seems like you guys have the secret sauce, figuring it all out, but tell us a little bit about behind the scenes. How do you guys work together? Tell us about the makeup of your company, and how do you keep inspiring your team, through the last 8-9 months, and keep your head out of over water too.
Well, I can say about working with your significant other I feel like the word challenging has come up a lot in this conversation, but also very rewarding, I would say. I get the opportunity to really firsthand see his creative process, really understand the product, and on a very intimate level, where we're able to live with it in the factory. We live with our product in our showroom. I was going to say we live with it at our home, but some reason we don't have one light fixture of our own in our house.
Fix that.
we definitely need to fix that. But I think the success as far as the two of us working together is that we both serve very different functions of our brand, of our company. Shant is very much the guy at the wheel, our captain, really making sure that we are headed on the right course, creatively with the business, in all aspects. Shant is like the guy. Everybody looks up to Shant, which I do as well, very much. I would say I'm more like the host of the cruise ship, welcoming everybody in, saying hello, providing a tour. And I think that works out really well for us, so we can stay out of each other's way. Yeah. But in a good way.
Mel used to would say that I was the head of sales prevention. Always complicating things, always. And she really has a knack for relationships. It's just very genuine, honest approach to working with people. And that has been incredible for the business. It's really hard to balance the two. And I think as a partnership we've been able to do that. But we're also now a company of almost 50 people, so we have incredible input from just like, so much talent from different places, and having to move the business further away meant that we did have to do a lot of hiring all at once. But we have employees in 3 different states, and we collaborate with people overseas even, or we work with engineers remotely oftentimes, and so it really is very exciting. Every day it's like dealing with different types of people and on so many different levels, especially with full manufacturing capability now too. I would say, the creative process or the secret sauce, there really isn't one person. I think from the outside, oftentimes, things appear like, all right, this is great. You guys got your act together, and it doesn't feel that way on the inside, and it shouldn't, right?
Yeah.
And if the wheels aren't falling off the wagon, you're not going fast enough, right?
Right.
Now?
Yeah,
And
that's
so, but I would say this: I'd say the creativity that drives the innovation, but it's the focus that drives success. And I think when you want to work with people on a creative basis, there has to be a level of credibility that you actually can turn things into reality.
Yep.
Otherwise it's just a basket of ideas, sometimes really good ideas, but it's that execution that when you're able to prove that you can do it, however hard and however difficult or long that process may be, I think it really opens up possibilities on the creative side, because now you can work with people who really understand that you're able to get this to the end point, and that inspires passion and motivation, I think, a lot. So internally, yes, you're putting out a fire. It's not nice internally. Like, something happened, you have problems, something isn't working correctly, and then kind of switching your mind back to, imagine if we did this, or you start getting to that creative hat. You just get used to it, and people get used to it. So
yeah, and I love the message that was that you were talking in the video, but that was spoken about on the video about bringing work back to a town, about creating a diverse workforce, about sustainability, about equity. Can you talk a little bit about that? I mean, we had an amazing panel on diversity and inclusion in the industry via ICFF, a webinar a couple months ago now. Time flies. But can you talk about how this is important to the brand and your ethos?
Yeah, 100%. I first of all, it's you got to really believe it, right? Like, you can't adopt it. You can't adopt diversity, equality, and just pretend to care about your community. You really do have to feel that, right? And I think that's something that already we started that way. I mean, I come from a background that's very different from Mel, and we've lived in different places. We've experienced different. New York is incredibly diverse. I come from a diverse city. Montreal is one of the most diverse cities in North America. So that was really ingrained at a young age. But moving into a town of people, I guess, to be perfectly fair, I'd never lived in a town like that. I've never worked in a town like that. They're wonderful people. They were very welcoming, and it was weird to feel like almost like the big fish, right, in the small pond. We still don't see ourselves that way. We always see ourselves as like little Juniper, and it was nice to be welcomed by that, and to interview people who, you see resumes of people who had worked and were very proud of their craft and were now doing something that wasn't what they wanted to do, and then now to have this opportunity to come into this new place. It was also very interesting to see that although our town demographically isn't incredibly diverse, we're next to very diverse towns. We're not too far from New Haven and Hartford and Waterbury and Bridgeport. So, to see the diversity of people applying for the positions and in being able to really embrace that, and I'm very proud of the makeup of our company and how diverse that is, but also that, and Mel can speak to this, right? And women in the workforce, in the managerial levels, where 70% of our workforce are women, and that's also true on the managerial level. And it's not something we weren't keeping score here.
Right.
It just, that's where the talent was, and that's what, if you're open to it, it happens. That's kind of the sad part of the whole thing, is it's that if you're trying, something's wrong. You know what I mean? It almost happens. And so these are like and then of course the elements of the environment, and for us, our perspective on that is that the world is still getting used to what that means, right? What does it mean to be a steward of the environment? And for us, it means making incremental improvements, right? It's using less material. It is finding alternative sources of energy. It's to produce, and it's those little things that you have to constantly be aware of, ultimately, to get to a place where it's just better than it is today, And so the environment is an important part, and especially you're conscious of it in the manufacturing world. We're spraying, we're finishing metals, so you're not starting from a good place. So it's from there you got to just improve,
Love that.
No, it's been very. It does feel like everything has happened, especially the diversity of our company. Feels it was just so natural, and when I show up to the factory and I get to see all these lovely people, half of their faces, it's really. I feel very proud, and I think that my colleagues who work at Juniper, I think, are also very proud to work there as well. It's a beautiful facility. It's lovely environment, and I do think there's something, and I can speak to this. I think there's something to be said about working around some very talented, very strong women.
Yeah.
It's been great.
Well, applaud you for all that you're doing. And before we switch over to audience questions, tell us about the name, Juniper, because I know there's a meaning behind it.
Yeah, it's a nice word.
Yeah.
And I think it's a word in nature. It has a very natural feel to it. It's nondescript. It's warm. It's easy to say. And but I think for me personally, I've always been fascinated by trees. Photograph them regularly. It's just like one of those things that I've mesmerized since a child. So I was really, when looking for a name for Juniper, I was looking for something that at least could echo that interest a little bit. And Juniper is something that for me did that, and it's really, there's no bounds to it. And juniper trees are gorgeous, and they really grow in whatever direction they want to.
And they make gin.
Well, there you go.
Come on.
I mean, bonus.
Yeah.
Love it. All right, let's turn over the camera to Megan Dwyer, who's our ICFF's Associate Content Director, to see if there's any great questions from the audience.
Hi, guys. So we have a few good questions. Someone is wondering, I would love to hear more about how they are finding business at this time. Where are most of their leads generated, and where are they finding most fertile leads?
Well, I can answer that. It's difficult because you can't really, I think in the past, if you wanted to find new business, you were cold calling, looking online, see what kind of projects were out there, and then really kind of using your own internal network to find the leads and clients. I think now, I'm definitely in the sales side of the business. What has been successful for us is I think we've really kind of turned to our community, to the clients that we work with regularly, but also even more than that is also sharing information with my fellow architectural sales reps that I know who also work in furniture or in textiles or even in lighting and in tile and other areas where you're able to really get information passed around in a way that feels friendly, that you're able to say, okay, I'm actually working on this. Oh, you should meet this person. Let me introduce you to this person. To me, that has been quite successful. Also, partnering with another non-competing vendor in inviting clients to our showroom, for, 2 clients to the showroom for a cocktail hour, or getting set up on a Zoom call that's not just one person talking about one thing. It's, you're going to meet with 2 vendors or 3 vendors, and it's going to be 15-minute, very quick, product presentations. I think that that's been very successful. I don't know if it was always like that in the past. I think sharing more information among other non-competing vendors has been really successful, and it's something that I've worked with several of my colleagues in doing this, and I think it's a good way to network.
Yeah, I feel like that's been across the board, that people are more open to collaborating, sharing ideas. I've even seen that from some designer friends that now have monthly Zoom calls with technically competitors of theirs, but they're just getting a pulse, right? Just getting a sense of, how you're doing. And, I think maybe that's one of the silver linings of the pandemic, of continuing to bring the industry closer since we're all so far apart right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Megan, anything else from the audience?
That was a great answer. We have one more question. Are all of your products designed in-house, or are some of the collections outsourced and then manufactured in-house?
Okay, so it's actually not one or the other. All of our products are our products. So every design collaboration that we've done has been working closely with a designer or a product designer. Some of our collections, like the flutes, the Axis, have been designed in-house, the ground control, while collections like the Metropolis and the Thin system have been in collaboration with industrial designers outside of Juniper. And in all cases, it's all become kind of a family, in a sense where we don't have like this contract just with someone, which is like, okay, and then they give you the product and you do it, you don't speak to them, and they're just long-term relationships that we've built. But if the question is whether we do custom lighting for other brands, the answer is no. We haven't done that. We have done custom fixtures for our clients. It's that we haven't then included into our collection. I think every once in a while, if it's something that's in our wheelhouse, or we can do it, or we can accommodate, we do so as well. Now especially with increased capabilities. But we've been pretty busy lately, so we haven't done a ton of that. But yeah, we're looking for always keeping an open mind. But yeah, we don't do any OEM type manufacturing.
Got it. Megan, one more.
One more. People are wondering, how do they schedule an appointment to come to your showroom?
Ooh.
So super easy. Call me.
The number flashes across the bottom.
My number, yes. Call now. Very easy. Online, you can go to our website. We have schedule a visit. There are plenty of times during the week that you can meet for a visit. It's super easy on Calendly. It just kind of works everything out. But also very simple. It really is as simple as calling our main line and getting somebody, and we're able to schedule something. And also, we're Instagram. If you send us a DM, you want to come by, we'll be happy to accommodate. And smoke signals, a pigeon. I mean, yeah, a little Morse code. We'll hook you up.
You'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
I love it. So just to wrap up, I know you really, both of you appreciate, you look at your company as a family, and, really love to celebrate the moment and the achievements. What's next for Juniper? What's on the horizon? What can we look out for?
So I would say, right now we're focused on a lot of things internally, really improving our process, training our team, building out our capabilities. So a lot of focus on that, I think, because it all starts at the home, in the house, right? And then but at the same time, we're set to launch one of our biggest endeavors to date.
Oh.
Can't speak too much to it yet, but it is a new collection that is, I think, in terms of innovation, is probably our biggest challenge that we've embarked on. So I'm really excited about that. And then we have a few other things kind of around that as well that are, additions to existing collections. And as far as the company is concerned, we're just going to stay the course. I think, we've got a busy pipeline. We COVID was a challenge and for the whole industry. And we're trying to cope with that while at the same time keeping our vision on the long term and making sure that we don't lose focus on what we originally set out to do. And I think we've been able to do that. So yeah, it's basically that. Just trying to build out what we started and finish it up.
Amazing.
2021.
Yes.
Yeah.
Here we come.
Here we go.
I think we're all looking forward to 2021. So thank you both so much for being here. It was just loved our conversation. And you can see more at juniper-design.com and via Instagram at juniper-design NY in case you want to send a DM to get into that showroom. And don't go away. I'll be back here at noon for my chat with David Weeks. And as we go to break, enjoy another close-up video from Hospitality Design Magazine with the wonderful Will Meyer and Gray Davis of Meyer Davis. See you back at noon.